How many decisions did you make today that were truly yours? Not what your parents expected, not what your friends would approve of, not what strangers on the internet might think, but genuinely yours. The uncomfortable truth is that most of us are living a life carefully curated for an audience that barely notices we exist. But what if I told you that ancient Stoic philosophers discovered a framework over 2,000 years ago that could set you completely free from this exhausting performance? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how to reclaim your life and live on your own terms. The Stoic way. Right now, at this very moment, someone somewhere is changing their outfit for the 5th time, not because they dislike what they are wearing, but because they are terrified of what others might think. Someone else is staying silent in a meeting, even though they have the solution, because speaking up feels too vulnerable, too exposed. Another person is scrolling through social media at 2 in the morning, feeling their stomach tighten with each post, comparing their behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. Maybe this someone is you. Maybe you have felt that crushing weight of constantly monitoring yourself, editing your words, suppressing your truth, performing a version of yourself that you think the world wants to see. The exhaustion is real. The anxiety is real. The feeling that you are losing yourself piece by piece, that is devastatingly real. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are simply human, caught in a trap that has ensnared billions before you. The need for belonging is hardwired into our psychology, but somewhere along the way, belonging turned into approval-seeking, and approval-seeking turned into self-abandonment. You have been taught since childhood that your worth is determined by external validation, by grades, by likes, by promotions, by how many people show up to your events. And now you are tired. Tired of the performance, tired of the fear, tired of living a life that does not feel like yours. Before we go deeper into this transformation, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. This is not just another self-help space. This is where we explore ancient Stoic wisdom and translate it into practical tools for modern life. If you are serious about building genuine freedom and inner strength, the next videos will give you the exact frameworks the Stoics used to remain unshakable in the face of chaos. Hit that subscribe button so you do not miss what is coming next. Here is what most people will never tell you. The moment you decide to live for others, you hand them the remote control to your emotional state. Every frown, every dismissive comment, every lack of response becomes a trigger that sends you spiraling. You become a puppet, and the strings are held by people who are too busy managing their own chaos to even notice they are controlling you. You check your phone obsessively, not because you love connection, but because you need the reassurance that you still matter. You say yes when every fiber of your being screams no, because disappointing someone feels like a moral failure. You have become so skilled at reading the room that you have forgotten how to read yourself. But here is the insight that changes everything, and I need you to really hear this. The person whose opinion you are desperately seeking, the one you are twisting yourself into knots to impress, they are doing the exact same thing with someone else. It is a chain of people performing for other performers, and nobody is watching the show. You are spending your precious life, your one unrepeatable existence, trying to control something that Stoic philosophers identified as fundamentally outside your control. The opinions of others, their thoughts about you, their judgments, their approval. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, a literal emperor, wrote something in his private journal that should shake you awake. He wrote that we should not be disturbed by the opinions of others because their thoughts occur in their minds, not in yours, and you have no access to their internal world, just as they have no access to yours. Let me paint you a picture, and I want you to really see this. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, and the first thought that enters your mind is not anxiety about what you need to prove today. Instead, you feel a quiet certainty, a deep knowing that your worth is not up for debate. You walk into that meeting, and when you speak, your voice is steady, not because you are sure everyone will agree, but because you are no longer outsourcing your confidence to their reactions. Someone criticizes you, and instead of that familiar punch to the gut, you feel nothing. Not because you have become cold or arrogant, but because you have recognized a simple truth. Their criticism is about their perspective, their values, their expectations, and those things live in their mind, not yours. You post something online, something true to you, And you do not compulsively check the likes. You do not refresh the comments. You shared what you wanted to share, and now you have moved on because the value was in the expression, not in the validation. You are sitting with family, and they make that comment they always make, the one that used to ruin your entire week. And this time you smile, you nod, and you remain completely unmoved in your center. This is not fantasy. This is the practical result of Stoic training. This is what living for yourself actually looks like. So why does this matter? Why should you care about ancient philosophy in a modern world? Because the mechanism is still the same. When you seek approval, you train your brain to become dependent on external validation. Every time you get that hit of likes or praise or acknowledgement, your brain releases dopamine, and you become addicted to the variable reward schedule, just like a slot machine. You are literally conditioning yourself into emotional slavery. But when you shift your focus to what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control, when you recognize that your thoughts, your choices, your intentions, and your responses are yours, and everything else belongs to fortune, something revolutionary happens. You break the reinforcement cycle. You stop feeding the addiction. You reclaim your power. And let me be crystal clear about something, because this gets misunderstood constantly. Living for yourself does not mean becoming a selfish, isolated hermit who does not care about anyone. The Stoics were deeply committed to their communities, to service, to relationships. Epictetus taught students. Seneca advised emperors. Marcus Aurelius led an empire. But they did these things from a place of inner autonomy, not desperate need. There is a massive difference between contributing because you choose to and performing because you need the applause. One is generous. The other is transactional. One is free, the other is enslaved. You know what I find fascinating? When you look at the people who have genuinely changed the world, the ones we remember centuries later, they were almost always the ones who stopped caring about immediate approval. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, but he never abandoned his principles for comfort or approval. Rosa Parks sat down when the world told her to stand aside. Every major artist, inventor, and philosopher faced ridicule from their contemporaries. Van Gogh sold almost nothing during his lifetime. Galileo was tried for heresy. Socrates was executed for corrupting the youth with questions. But they lived for something deeper than approval. They lived for truth, for principle, for their own integrity. And that is not just reserved for historical figures. Right now, there are people in your life who embody this quiet strength. The person who calmly says no without elaborate explanations or guilt. The individual who pursues their weird passion despite raised eyebrows. The friend who sits in comfortable silence instead of filling every gap with performance. These people are not special. They are not genetically different. They simply made a decision, the same decision available to you right now. They decided that their internal compass matters more than external applause. Now let me give you the practical tools, the actual techniques that transform this from inspiring idea to lived reality. This is where we go deep, so stay focused because what I am about to share will require your full attention. First, we start with what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control, and I am going to make this so practical you can use it today. Take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone right now and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write things I control. On the right side, write things I do not control. Now here is where it gets interesting, because most people get this completely wrong. You do not control outcomes. You do not control other people's reactions. You do not control whether you get the job, whether they text back, whether your post goes viral, whether your family approves of your choices. You do not even control your initial emotional reactions. Those are automatic responses based on conditioning. So what do you actually control? You control your attention. Where you place your focus right now, that is yours. You control your judgments. The meaning you assign to events, the interpretations you choose, those are yours. You control your intentions. Why you do something, the values that drive your choices, those are yours. You control your responses. Not the initial feeling, but what you do after that feeling arises, that is yours. And you control your effort. not the results of your effort, but the quality of your engagement. That is yours. This distinction is not semantic. It is the difference between freedom and suffering. Every single time you suffer, and I mean every single time, you are trying to control something outside your domain. You want them to like you. You need this to work out. You require approval. You demand a certain outcome. And reality does not negotiate with your demands. But here is what changes everything. When you focus exclusively on what you control, your attention, your judgments, your intentions, your responses, your effort, you become anti-fragile. Criticism cannot touch you because you are not seeking approval. Failure cannot break you because you define success by effort, not outcome. Rejection cannot diminish you because your worth was never up for external determination. Now let me give you the morning practice that will rewire your brain. I need you to hold off judgment on this until you try it for 7 days. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you talk to anyone, before you enter the chaos of the day, you sit quietly for 3 minutes and you say this framework out loud or in your mind. Today, I will encounter people who are confused, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and unsocial. They are like this because they cannot distinguish between good and bad. But I have seen the nature of good, that it is beautiful, and the nature of bad, that it is ugly. I know that the person who wrongs me is related to me, not by blood or birth, but by sharing the same rational nature. Therefore, none of them can harm me because they cannot make me do what is ugly. I cannot be angry with my fellow humans or hate them because we are made to cooperate, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. To work against one another is therefore unnatural, and anger or rejection counts as working against someone. This is adapted from Marcus Aurelius, but let me break down why this is psychological genius. You are pre-framing your day. You are acknowledging that people will disappoint you, not to be cynical, but to remove the shock value. When someone is rude and you expected kindness, you suffer. When someone is rude and you expected humans to sometimes be rude, you remain stable. You are anchoring in your values. You are reminding yourself what good actually means. And spoiler alert, it is not their approval. You are connecting to shared humanity. You are recognizing that the person who annoys you is struggling with their own ignorance, their own pain, their own lack of clarity. This does not excuse their behavior, but it removes your emotional reactivity. You are claiming your invincibility. You are declaring that external events cannot make you act against your principles. That is power. Now, the second technique, and this is where people start feeling the shift quickly. You need to build what I call your hierarchy of values, and this needs to be explicit, not vague. Sit down with that paper again and complete this sentence. I would rather be blank than be liked. Fill in that blank with your actual values. I would rather be honest than be liked. I would rather be authentic than be liked. I would rather be courageous than be liked. I would rather be kind than be liked. I would rather be growing than be liked. Write down at least 5, and here is the crucial part. The next time you face a decision where you are tempted to people please, you pull out this list and you ask yourself a simple question. If I choose approval right now, which of these values am I betraying? Suddenly the cost becomes visible. It is no longer abstract. You are not just saying no to someone's request. You are saying yes to your integrity. You are not just risking disapproval. You are honoring courage. The frame shifts completely. Let me give you a real scenario. Your friends invite you out, but you are exhausted. You need rest. You have been running on empty. The old you says yes, because saying no feels selfish, and you are terrified they will stop inviting you. The Stoic you checks the hierarchy. I would rather be self-aware than be liked. I would rather honor my needs than be liked. I would rather be honest than perform energy I do not have. You text back. I appreciate the invite, but I need to rest tonight. Enjoy, and let's plan something next week when I can be fully present. Notice what just happened. You did not apologize excessively. You did not lie about being busy. You did not perform guilt. You stated your truth clearly and kindly. and then you let go of their reaction because their reaction is not your domain. Third technique, and this one is counterintuitive, but extraordinarily effective. You practice saying no for no reason. I'm serious. Find low-stakes situations and practice the muscle of declining without justification. Someone asks if you want dessert, you say no thank you. They ask why not. You smile and say, I just do not want any right now. That is it. No elaborate explanation, no apology, no story about your diet or your stomach or your plans later. Just a calm, clear no. Why does this matter? Because every time you justify, you are subconsciously communicating that your no is not valid on its own, that it requires external approval to be acceptable. You are training yourself to seek permission for your own boundaries. But when you can say no and let it stand, you are affirming that your choices are inherently valid simply because they are yours. You are reconditioning your nervous system to tolerate the discomfort of potential disapproval. And here is what happens. At first, it feels terrifying. Your heart races. You brace for conflict. But people just say okay and move on. And you realize something profound. Most of the drama was happening in your head. Most people are too absorbed in their own lives to wage war over your no. You have been fighting phantoms. Now the fourth practice, and this is deeply Stoic. Negative visualization, but applied specifically to approval. Once a week you sit quietly and you visualize the worst-case approval scenario. Imagine posting something authentic and receiving harsh criticism. Imagine being yourself at an event and noticing people seem unimpressed. Imagine your family openly disapproving of your choices. Sit with these images, not to torture yourself, but to remove their power. Ask yourself, if this happened, if I faced total disapproval, would I survive? The answer is always yes. Then ask, if I faced this disapproval but stayed true to my values, would I respect myself? The answer is always yes. And finally ask, is temporary discomfort worth permanent self-betrayal? The answer is always no. You are training yourself to see that the worst-case scenario is not actually that bad, and more importantly, that betraying yourself to avoid it is far worse. You are inoculating yourself against the fear. Fifth, and this connects to a beautiful Stoic concept called the circles of Heracles. Heracles was a Stoic who taught that we exist in concentric circles. The innermost circle is yourself. The next circle is your immediate family, then extended family, then local community, then fellow citizens, then all of humanity. The Stoic goal is to gradually draw the outer circles inward, to extend the care you have for yourself to all of humanity. But here is what most people miss. You cannot extend care outward if you have abandoned the center. If you do not honor yourself, if you betray your inner circle constantly, you have nothing authentic to give the outer circles. You become a well with no water, pouring out performance and resentment instead of genuine care. So, living for yourself is not selfish. It is the foundation of meaningful contribution. When you honor your needs, your values, your truth, you show up in relationships as a whole person, not a fragmented performer. You give from surplus, not deficit. Your generosity becomes real because it is chosen, not coerced by fear. Practice this daily. Check in with your inner circle. Have I honored myself today? Have I listened to my actual needs? Have I acted according to my values? If yes, then extend outward. If no, then pause and recalibrate. You cannot give what you do not have. Sixth technique, and this is tactical for the digital age. You implement what I call the response delay protocol. When someone posts something, sends a message, or makes a request that triggers your approval-seeking instinct, you do not respond immediately. You wait. Minimum 1 hour. Ideally 24 hours. During that delay, you ask 3 questions. 1. Am I responding from my center or from fear? 2. Does this response reflect my values or their expectations? 3. Will I respect this response tomorrow? Only after passing that filter do you reply. What this does is break the reactive loop. Most approval seeking happens in the heat of the moment when your nervous system is activated and your prefrontal cortex is offline. The delay gives your rational mind time to come back online. It transforms you from reactive to responsive. And here is the bonus effect. When you stop being instantly available for everyone else's needs and emotions, people start respecting your boundaries automatically. They learn that you are not a vending machine of validation. You are a person with your own rhythm. Seventh, you create what I call the Stoic anchor statement. This is one sentence that captures your core intention for how you want to live, and you memorize it. Mine is simple. I choose integrity over comfort. Yours might be different. I honor my truth regardless of reception. I am enough without external proof. I live by my values, not others' opinions. Whatever resonates, write it down, memorize it, and repeat it every time you feel the pull of approval seeking. Make it your mantra. Let it interrupt the pattern. When you are about to say yes, but mean no, whisper your anchor statement. When you are about to delete an honest post because it might be controversial, repeat your anchor statement. When you are about to shrink yourself to fit in, breathe into your anchor statement. This is your line in the sand. This is your reminder of who you are becoming. Eighth practice, journaling with Stoic prompts. Every evening, spend 5 minutes answering these 3 questions. 1. Where did I seek approval today, and what did it cost me? Be specific. Did I change my opinion in a conversation? Did I post something inauthentic? Did I say yes when I meant no? Name it. 2. Where did I honor myself today? And how did it feel? Did I state a boundary? Did I share my real opinion? Did I choose rest over performance? Celebrate it. 3. What is one situation tomorrow where I might be tempted to people please, and how will I respond differently? This is your pre-rehearsal. You are visualizing the Stoic response before the trigger hits. This journaling practice creates conscious awareness of your patterns, reinforces your progress, and prepares you for future challenges. It transforms living for yourself from abstract concept to concrete daily practice. Now let me address the fear that is probably arising right now. You might be thinking, if I stop seeking approval, will people leave? Will I end up alone? This is the question everyone asks, and it deserves a real answer. Some people might leave. The ones who were only there for your performance, who needed you to stay small so they could feel big, who required your constant availability to fill their emptiness. Yes, those connections might fade. And that is not a loss. That is a liberation. Because what replaces them is something far more valuable. You attract people who appreciate your authenticity. You build relationships based on mutual respect, not mutual need. You discover that the people who matter do not require you to betray yourself to earn your place in their lives. And most surprisingly, you find that you enjoy your own company. Solitude stops being loneliness and becomes peace. You are no longer running from yourself through constant external validation. You are coming home. Here is the thing that nobody tells you about living for yourself. It is not a one-time decision. It is not like you wake up one day fully transformed and never struggle again. It is a practice. Some days you will nail it. You will state your boundary clearly, and you will feel that quiet pride. Other days you will slip. You will people please, you will shrink, you will perform, and that is okay. The Stoics did not demand perfection. They demanded direction. Are you moving toward virtue or away from it? Are you becoming more yourself or less? Progress, not perfection. That is the standard. So when you mess up, and you will, you do not spiral into shame. Shame is just another form of seeking approval from your own internalized critic. Instead, you notice. You say, interesting, I defaulted to approval seeking there. What was I afraid of? What can I do differently next time? And you move forward. This is the practice. This is the path. Let me take you back to the beginning for a moment. Remember that person changing their outfit 5 times, terrified of judgment. Imagine them 1 year from now after practicing these principles. They put on what feels good, what expresses who they are, and they walk out the door without a second thought. Not because they have become arrogant or indifferent, but because they have recognized that clothing is just clothing, and other people's opinions are just opinions, and neither of those things determines their worth. That person in the meeting who stayed silent, 1 year later they speak their truth clearly, and when someone disagrees, They listen with curiosity instead of defensive panic because disagreement is just disagreement, not a referendum on their value. The person scrolling at 2 in the morning, stomach tight with comparison. 1 year later, they have deleted the apps that drain them, they have curated a life that feels true, and they sleep soundly because their worth is no longer tied to metrics created by algorithms designed to exploit insecurity. This is not fantasy. This is the documented result of Stoic practice. This is freedom. You are standing at a crossroads right now. One path is familiar. It is the path of performance, of exhaustion, of living a life carefully curated for an audience that barely notices. It is safe in its familiarity, but it is slowly killing something essential inside you. The other path is uncertain. It is the path of integrity, of authenticity, of living for yourself. It requires courage because you will disappoint people. You will face criticism. You will be misunderstood. But on this path, you get to keep yourself. You get to lay your head on the pillow each night knowing that you honored your truth. You get to look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. You get to experience the quiet, unshakable peace that comes from internal alignment. The Stoics called this eudaimonia, often translated as flourishing or the good life. It is not happiness in the sense of constant pleasure. It is deeper. It is the satisfaction of living according to your nature, of fulfilling your potential as a rational, autonomous being. It is the feeling of being fully alive, fully yourself, fully free, and it is available to you, right now, today, this moment, not when circumstances change, not when you have more confidence, not when other people give you permission, now. So here is what I need you to do. If this video gave you even a spark of recognition, if something inside you whispered yes, this is what I need, then hit that like button right now. Not for me, but as a commitment to yourself, as a declaration that you are choosing the path of authenticity. Then subscribe to this channel because the journey does not end here. The next videos will go even deeper into Stoic practices, into the specific challenges you will face, into the tools you will need. This is not a one-time inspiration hit. This is a training ground for your mind and spirit. And finally, I want to hear from you. Go to the comments right now and answer this question. What is one area of your life where you have been living for others' approval? And what is one small step you can take today to reclaim it? Be specific. Be honest. When you type it out, when you make it public, you are activating commitment and accountability. You are joining a community of people on the same path. We are all learning to live for ourselves, the Stoic way, and your voice matters here. Drop that comment right now. I will see you in the next video, and until then, remember what Marcus Aurelius wrote. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Go live for yourself.